The Embankment Gardens in London, a thin green strip populated by lots and lots of human beings, and also those creatures which scavenge on the leftovers from human beings, the pigeons, the squirrels, you can probably hear a magpie, and somewhere in this undergrowth, somewhere lurking the fox. Loads of them around. And it's not been a good week for foxes. We had the story at the end of last week that two little babies had been savaged by a rogue fox, which somehow broke into their house in Stoke Newington, in a different part of London, and tried to eat them. A fox tried to eat them, and both these little girls are getting better now, thankfully. But there's been a furore and a great worry in this urban area. Are foxes dangerous? Are they potential killers? What should we do about them? Should we get rid of them? All this sort of stuff. So I'm going to try and find out the truth.
I think that there are quite specific reasons why we've so many in urban areas. If you think of the three core conditions for particularly carnivorous mammals like foxes to flourish. One is food, the second is shelter. There's lots of shelter here in London. And thirdly, there are no natural predators. I mean, you could argue that that line of traffic behind you is the natural predator for the fox. After all, it's estimated that over half of the fox population are killed by the car.
So we've got a fairly low life expectancy, both
Yes.
in London and in
Absolutely.
the countryside, haven't
Absolutely.
we? Yeah.
And the car is, probably does take out 60% of the urban fox population.
I lived in Dulwich until a year or two ago. A chap only 5 or 6 doors down from me used to feed the local fox, which we called Jimmy, a plate of chicken cutlets every night. And it being Dulwich, they were almost certainly organic, free-range chicken cutlets. We shouldn't do that. Probably.
No, we shouldn't, because the other thing is that you artificially boost a population by removing one of the core conditions for their long-term survival, which is learning to hunt and scavenge and feeding. For example, in the way we've done with city pigeons, they end up getting all sorts of illnesses that they wouldn't get in the wild.
Just 28 miles from London, which is over there, and in this field behind me are proper lovely rural foxes. You can probably just see them. If I were Kate Humble, we'd have better equipment and bigger cameras and zoom lenses and all that sort of thing. But they're over there playing in the field. I saw them last night, vixen and 3 cubs playing in the road. Beautiful creatures. Who could ever wish to hunt them? Well, we've got a man here who is in favour of hunting them.
He's there.
Interesting thing, we talked to a chap from the London Wildlife Trust. Asked him about the presence of foxes in London, something like 10,000 of them. And he said, well, they like London because they're not treated as badly as they are in the countryside by your lot.
Well, I mean, I heard Brian May on the politics show the other day saying that there are foxes in towns because they're being chased in by hunts. That's absolute nonsense. They've always been there.
Well, they're opportunistic.
Of course, they're an opportunistic. They're wild predator scavenger. But also, of course, the town has expanded out and covered their territories. There have always been foxes on Hampstead Heath and parts of Epping Forest. It's not the case that the foxes are coming in from the countryside. That's a stupid thing to say.
The news has come through today that another 9-year-old girl living in a town was savaged by a fox. Savaged by a fox. She apparently jumped on her and bit her. Do you think these sort of attacks, ludicrously dramatic though they have been presented in the press with front-page stories, do you think that's the sort of thing which might tilt the balance in your favour?
Well, it might make people think about foxes and how we control them a little bit more. I'm afraid people have a very confused idea about foxes. On one hand, they're very nice, cuddly animals. They're very handsome animals. I mean, even some in London are very healthy looking, or at least they are at a certain stage. And some people will regard them as a sort of an extension of their pets and try to hand feed them. And obviously, if you are going to feed them, and I don't have a problem with people feeding them because the food is unlimited in London, so if people want to do it and attract the
But
foxes.
doesn't that accustom them to humans in a way which is dangerous?
That's the point. That is exactly the point. Don't let them come to you. Don't feed them like you might feed a dog or a cat. That's where the problems start. That's when you get a situation where it thinks, oh, this house there's going to be some food in it, I'll go in there. And when they're spooked, as could have happened with these two young kiddies, as unfortunate as it was, we don't know exactly what happened in that bedroom. If the fox is spooked, it will do two things. It'll either run, and if it can't run, it will attack. And that's possibly what happened in this case.
So, an interesting week for Fantastic Mr. Fox, and not a really very good week for Fantastic Mr. Fox, given the bad publicity which the creature has incurred in our towns. Things have changed, you might think. I was always against the hunting of foxes, and very, very much in favour of the hunting ban. But it does seem to me that the people in the towns have a pretty incoherent view of wildlife, and aren't quite sure where vermin begins and wildlife stops, and don't really understand what it is to live amongst wild animals. And this has given a degree of comfort, I think, to the people of the Countryside Alliance, my old enemies in the Countryside Alliance, like Jim, who look at what's happened in London in the last couple of weeks and think, you see, we sort of told you.